Mr. President, I want to start by just thanking my colleague from Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar, and Senator Heinrich, and Senator Baldwin, and all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who have joined me in opposing House Joint Resolution 140. And, I start from this place. One of our most important responsibilities, I think, in this body is to protect our precious public spaces. Those places that, as Senator Heinrich just said so eloquently, help to forge our national identity and connect us to our past and to our future. I'm thinking of places like Yosemite and the Black Hills of South Dakota and the Grand Canyon, and of course the Boundary Waters. And traditionally, historically, in this body, we have approached our responsibilities to protect these precious places with a sense of balance. We think of the value of the wilderness itself. We also think of the needs for economic opportunity for our constituents. We think of our responsibilities around stewardship of these places, of these natural resources. And in that balancing effort that we have traditionally tried to take, we are guided by the science. We are guided by public input, what people in these parts of the country think is the best thing to do, because those folks that are closest to the issues, closest to the land, are going to have the best ideas about what should happen to the land. And also, Mr. President, we are guided by the long-standing trust and treaty obligations that the federal government has to the tribal nations, a sovereign relationship that goes beyond just the laws of this country. And Mr. President, this is actually what Minnesota knows how to do. We know how to strike this balance. Minnesota is the #1 producer in the country of iron ore. The battleships and the tanks of World War II were built with Minnesota iron. And Minnesota is also moving down the path of figuring out how to safely and responsibly mine the copper and the nickel and the platinum group of metals that are there in the Duluth complex up in northern Minnesota. You could see it in the maps that I was showing last night. But, Mr. President, Minnesota also understands, we know that you can support mining, but that does not mean that you support every mine in every place. And I think that this is a bipartisan, and we understand this in our country. We can support the need for mining, but that doesn't mean that we mine on the edge of Chaco Canyon or on the rim of the Grand Canyon. And it does not mean that we think that a copper sulfide mine on the doorstep of the Boundary Waters is a good idea. So, colleagues, what you are about to do, should you end up passing House Joint Resolution 140, what you are about to do is to fly in the face of that balance that has traditionally been a bipartisan goal, something that we have traditionally worked on together. You are about, should you make this vote, you are about to overturn a public land order that was put in place 3 years ago that stopped not all mining, colleagues, but this particular kind of copper sulfide mining for 20 years in just one place, in the Superior National Forest on the doorstep of the Boundary Waters. And if this is the decision that you end up making, colleagues, in this goal that we have of striking a balance, you are picking one side over the other. You are putting your thumb on the wrong side. When it comes to protecting this precious place, you're choosing the wrong side because you're not protecting this place that needs our support, needs our protection. Colleagues, the outdoor economy and outdoor recreation is essential to the vibrancy of northern Minnesota. You are not choosing that if you make this decision and you support House Joint Resolution 140. The small business people that count on the economy of northern Minnesota, the outdoor recreation economy. I have a letter here from dozens and dozens of Minnesota small businesses beseeching the Senate to oppose House Joint Resolution 140. And the reason why, they tell us right here, they say, The love for the Boundary Waters powers a strong and enduring recreation economy in northeastern Minnesota. 17,000 jobs, over $1 billion in sales annually in the region. Many small businesses that have been able to grow and develop and support their families because of the access to this incredible resource of the Boundary Waters. But no, colleagues, you would not be choosing that in this balance that we're trying to strike. Colleagues, if you support House Joint Resolution 140, you are ignoring what Minnesota wants. Not only the hundreds of thousands of people who sent in their public comments during the process of setting aside this space and protecting it from mining, but the 70% of Minnesotans who say, no, we do not want this mine in this place. We want our elected leaders to protect the Boundary Waters. And I want to be clear, because there's been a question about this. This is not just people from the Twin Cities who go up to the Boundary Waters to visit. This is everybody in Minnesota. This is people who live in northeastern Minnesota who want to see this protection done. So, colleagues, if you support Joint Resolution 140, you are also choosing to ignore the trust and the treaty obligations that we have to the Chippewa tribes in northern Minnesota. You're saying, nope, we're not going to pay any attention to that. That doesn't matter. You know that this mine is going to infringe on their hunting and fishing rights, their rights to harvest wild rice, but you're saying, I'm not going to come down on that side of the scale. What you're going to do, if you support House Joint Resolution 140, is you're going to come down. Who's the winner here? You're going to come down on the side of a Chilean billionaire. A Chilean billionaire who owns the largest copper mine, the largest copper company in the whole world. A Chilean billionaire who's going to take our minerals, ship them to the Pacific coast where they're going to go to China to get smelted, where this company has a sweetheart deal with China with their smelters. And then, if we're lucky, that copper is going to be sold back to us at a profit. That is not an America First strategy, colleagues. That is a Chilean billionaire first strategy. And I can't help but just recognize that as we are on the cusp of making this decision in the Senate, isn't it ironic that President Trump, who says that he is a supporter of miners, that he stands with steel workers, he is about to use foreign steel to build his billionaire ballroom off of the White House. What is that about? Now, look, I understand that there are different perspectives on this mining issue. I see this play out every single day in my beloved state of Minnesota. But as you vote, I ask you to think about this. I ask you to think about the precedent that you are setting here. Because here's what I've learned after having been in the Senate for the last 9 years. What goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. Because what you would be doing here, colleagues, is you would be allowing public land order, this public land order, to be rescinded under the Congressional Review Act. This is a dangerous precedent. This has never been done before. Public land orders have never previously been submitted by any administration, including the Trump administration, as rules subject to the CRA. This would be the first one submitted, even though this public land order was submitted 3 years ago, processed legally, done by the book that Congress wrote. So what would this really mean if this is the step that the Senate takes today? What this would mean is that any public land order that has been done over potentially decades could then be rescinded by some partisan act of Congress just willy-nilly. Think about what this means. It means mineral leases. It means timber public land orders in North Dakota. It means that any public land order that has been out there in the past, or potentially any administrative action, could be just undone under a privileged process in the United States Senate. Colleagues, I beseech you not to do this. I know that this is a terrible thing for us to do. I know that not only will it have impacts for my beloved Boundary Waters in my state, but that it will have impacts in all of our states. So as I close, Mr. President, I want to speak directly to the Minnesota people who care so much about the Boundary Waters and who care so much about the precious places that we have all over this country. You have organized, You have made calls, you have sent messages. I'm thinking about the hunting and fishing groups, I'm thinking about the outdoor groups, I'm thinking about the Minnesota citizens and American citizens, I'm thinking about all of the tribal leaders and members who have made your voices heard. And I want everyone to know that whatever the outcome of this vote this afternoon, that we will not stop fighting and we will not stop our work to protect the boundary waters. Of all the places that we have in this country, this place has such special meaning. It is a sacred place, and we will never stop defending it. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.